Welcome to NHL99, the athletics countdown of the best 100 players in modern NHL history. We're ranking 100 players but calling it 99 because we all know who's no. 1. It's the 99 spots behind no. Every Monday through Saturday until February we'll unveil new members of the list. Teammates and coaches and trainers never really noticed when Henrik and Daniel Sedin were furious with one another. At each other? Former Vancouver Canucks strength and conditioning coach Roger Takahashi responded when asked if he ever saw it. No, I honestly can't say I did. I've seen them be competitive with each other, but I don't know that I ever saw them mad or yelling at each other. That seems out of character. I don't know that I ever saw them mad at anybody. Never, notes Alex Burrows, the Sedins' longtime linemate and primary triggerman for all of those years. That's the one thing, I never really saw them fight or argue. The twins combined to form a singular NHL duo. They're the greatest players in Canucks franchise history. They won back-to-back scoring titles. They dominated opponents with ruthlessly extended cycle shift. Henrik's playmaking keyed their attack and is a main reason why he comes in at no. 76 on the Athletics list of the top 100 players of the NHL's post-expansion era. But it was Henrik's off-ice dynamic with Daniel, that mix of familial trust, brotherly affection and just a hint of classic sibling rivalry, that drove them to be great. It was their relationship, and the resulting chemistry, that set them apart. There has to be trust between a team, Henrik notes. There's trust within a team, trust within a five-man unit, and then trust between linemates, and ultimately it came down to the trust between Daniel and I. People didn't see it much, but when we got really mad at each other, it's when that trust was broken, when someone didn't do the things they had to do. Every time we stepped on the ice, we knew we had to be good because otherwise, we'd fail the other guys. It was very rare that we took the night off. We had bad games, but we didn't take games off mentally, and that's something we're both proud of. Those moments of anger between the twins played out in subtle fashion, away from the attention of all but their closest teammates. Quietly and to the side, on those rare occasions when things went poorly for the team, Henrik and Daniel would scream at each other in Swedish on the Vancouver bench. These moments were intense for the twins, even if they barely registered for most of their coaches and teammates. It's telling that both twins insist it was them. When it comes to hockey, that was me, Henrik laughed. I would probably get madder, counters Daniel, and get more heated. He'd be calmer, but he'd give it to me as well. We demanded a lot from each other because I knew how good he could be, and if he couldn't live up to that standard, I didn't always handle it well. I think that's part of why we were so consistent too, because we pushed each other to be at that level every night. When these moments cropped up, inevitable over the course of 17 seasons spent as brothers, teammates and linemates, the twins got into a rhythm of settling the matter before the end of the evening. We would yell at each other, Henrik recalls, and then sometimes it would stick until after the game or when we drove home after the game in different cars. Then the guy who got mad would call the other guy and say, "Okay, I know what happened, let's move on and get over it." I don't think I ever fell asleep still mad at him though. A lot of times I'd wait him out, so he had to make the call, notes Daniel. I knew he'd been the one screaming or whatever, so I'd wait and make sure he was the guy saying sorry. Daniel Sedin, left, and Henrik. When we think about the twins, we often think about their similarities. The biological miracle of two elite athletes, twin brothers, created a unique, highly cerebral attacking style that flummoxed defenders in the best hockey league in the world for nearly 2 decades. Simmering beneath the surface, however, the force that drove the twins to become Hall of Fame level players was the way they competed with one another, pushing each other to excel. Among former coaches, teammates and support staffers the twins worked closely with during their NHL careers, Henrik and Daniel are often remembered as never having had a bad day. Whether it was an early morning workout, a tough loss or a practice bag skate, outwardly the twins were relentlessly positive, respectful, and productive. Gentlemen, in every sense of the word. You feel lucky getting to work with athletes and people like that, says Takahashi of training the twins. My wife always used to say, I have to meet the parents, I want to know what they did. Because they are really, truly incredible human beings. Privately, however, Henrik and Daniel were intense, extraordinarily demanding, of themselves, and especially of one another. What people sometimes made a mistake about, I think, is that we were never the ones slamming sticks after losses or showing big emotions after losses, Henrik says. And it's easy to think that the guys doing that are more competitive, but there was no one more competitive than the twins. Hank would always say, I won the most important race when we were born, because had come out 4 or 6 minutes before Daniel, Burrows recalls, laughing. He felt like that was the ultimate race that had won. Playing two-touch, they were always the two finalists. Same with ping pong, they were the two best players we'd ever seen among hockey players. Hank was maybe a bit better at ping pong. Danny, being left-footed in soccer, was maybe the biggest athletic difference between both of those guys, but both of them could juggle a ball for hours. Their two-touch skills were themselves a product of the fact that Henrik and Daniel were also star soccer players in their teenage years, both central midfielders, and with equal finishing talent in that sport, before the twins decided to devote themselves to hockey at 16. With absolutely everything, they'd compete with one another, Takahashi says. They'd do a VO2 max test on the bike and they'd be trying to get like even 0.1 milliliter per kilogram of body fat better than the other one. They'd be happy with even 1/10 of a milliliter better, and if they didn't manage it, they'd ask to do the test again. And of course, there's a time crunch at training camp, so you couldn't let them, but they'd finish the VO2 max and Henrik would ask, "Can I do the test again? I really have to beat Daniel." This competitiveness, this push from one another, was at the core of how the twins built themselves from third-line players in their early 20s, widely covered as disappointments in those early seasons, into two of the NHL's most prolific stars, two-way forces and back-to-back scoring leaders in their late 20s. Playing together has been mostly positive for us, Daniel recalled of the club's early struggles in an intense media market, but one negative was that we care so much for each other. So if I had a good game and he was terrible and getting criticized, I'd feel for him and feel bad even if I was getting praised. It was tough for me when he was getting criticized. That was the hard part about having a twin and a good friend on the same team, because you'd feel for him. As the twins built up their bodies and their capacity and solved how to impose their unique style of play at the NHL level over the course of their 20s, it was this internal competition between the two that permitted them to overcome it all, that motivated them to reach the level they ultimately did. The first few years were tough. We wanted to please coaches and teammates and everyone, Daniel recalls. When you're not doing that, it's hard. As time moved on, we realized that we had to keep trying to get better. And that's something he did. Watching him go through that, I felt like I could do the same thing. We were able to feed off of each other. Their collective intensity made the twins who they became as a duo, but for Henrik individually, he appears on this list as one of the great playmakers of his generation, eclipsed as a pure passer only by Joe Thornton this century. To hear Daniel tell it, Henrik's ability to anticipate the game was second to none. It made him fun to play with, even if his style demanded that his linemates maintain an unthinkable work rate to take advantage of it. He almost plays hockey more like a soccer player, Daniel says of his brother. He puts pucks where you're going, not where you are. If you're able to read that, you get chances. It's a lot of hard work, you have to skate a lot, but you know he's going to give you the puck and he'll anticipate where you're going. That's what makes him special. Sometimes he's half screaming at you to skate because he knows where he wants to put the puck. It was always so much fun playing with him because he was always going to find you, and he was always going to put it on your tape. That makes you work harder, too. Burrows, on the other hand, describes the experience of complimenting Henrik quite differently. Honestly, Henrik made everything easier once you knew where you wanted to put the puck, Burrows says. Had never put you in a bad spot, or head hold onto the puck. You'd always have a bit of time and space because he'd put it right in your wheelhouse or on your tape, whereas with other centermen, sometimes they put you in a tunnel and you don't have much to work with. Hank was so good and so smart, and he understood that time and space was everything. He was so smart at attacking premium ice with his passing. It wasn't just skill or Henrik's preternatural ability to read the play in real time that permitted Henrik to rack up 830 career assists, it was also his preparation. A thinking Mons two-way center, Henrik mastered over time, in partnership with his brother, items like face-off set plays. Their shared commitment to leaving no stone unturned in searching for an edge drove their offensive success and their two-way dominance. And it's usually off of face-offs, in either the defensive zone or offensive zone. There were blind passes that look amazing, but Danny knew 100% that if he just put the puck in that area, whether the puck ended up on my stick or not, that it was going to be a 2-on-1. That's because he read the face-off forecheck. That gave us such an advantage when we played, and we needed it because we weren't the fastest skaters and we couldn't beat guys one-on-one. Face-off plays are almost like a football play. Everyone is set up a certain way, there's no guessing. If you do a pre-scout, you can tell what another team is going to do and you can use it to your advantage. The story of the twins' careers, their rise as the most unique attacking partnership in hockey history, is so fascinating because of their similarities, and their individual differences, the commingling of chemistry and geometric precision, tactical knowledge and adaptation that forged their distinctive style. But as a lived experience for the twins themselves, what stands out from the hockey part of their relationship isn't the two-on-ones, or the problem-solving, or the occasional outbursts in Swedish on the bench, or the sustained offensive zone shift cycling endlessly. It's the way they demanded so much of one another, and in the process, made themselves two of the best to ever play the game. It was such a treat to have a brother to compete with every day, Daniel says. In practice, in games, holding each other accountable and realizing, for me, how good he could be on any given day, and then holding him to that standard. I think it pushed him to become who he was, and I know it pushed me.